We'll hear about the Sissy Cop Award a little bit later, going to the Chatsworth Police Department in the tasing of an 87-year-old woman who had a knife in her hand and was on property across the street from her family's house in Chatsworth, looking for flowers, cutting off some flowers for a vase, probably on her dining table. And some good soul, some courageous soul doing his civic duty called 911. And because a knife was mentioned in the call and the Boys and Girls Club context mentioned in the same call, force was applied. Officers rushed to the scene and confronted this woman, at least 4 officers, and had their weapons drawn. And she didn't understand a word. As a Syrian Christian not speaking Anglais, was confronted, didn't know what they were saying, and did not let the knife down because she felt threatened by their aggressive presence around her. And she was tased. The dart entering her flesh just above her crucifix on her chest, and she fell, injured herself, and was hospitalized. And what is remarkable about this story with the Sissy Cop honor is that the chief defends her tasing as routine procedure. And that we should understand is not something that should comfort you, my listener, nor me here, David Toulis at 927 Nuke Radio and 95.3 FM HD4, where we cover on the David Toulis Show local economy and the free market. We are a station about reform. We want there to be reforms, and we're here to give you the ammo with which you can at least start thinking about the direction of reform. And I want to talk about one dealing with part 2 of every police encounter, and that is the cold cage, either the police car cage or the cage in the jail in your county or in your town here. And to look at this problem of how to get out from behind that bar, those bars, and that cold room with the hard floor and the nasty white bread meal for dinner, we have to have some money. Now, what if you're poor, though, and have no funds and a very limited background, limited family support, and you have no way of paying the bond itself, and maybe it's $1,000 bond, or you don't have the $100 that the skimming bond economy demands for your release. So what do you do? Michael Gilliland is the chairman of Chattanooga Organized for Action here in Chattanooga, founded 8 years ago. He's 37 years old. He's married, and has a grievance for us to consider today on the David Toulis Show. Michael, what's the main problem with setting bail or demanding a bond of someone who is charged in a criminal case? Let's say a misdemeanor case. What is the problem here?
Well, ostensibly, the reason why bail is set is for 2 things. It's number one, to make sure that a person will come back to their court date to appear before the judge. And number 2, ostensibly to create safety for the community. So the idea, which has a long history in the United States, but is really not seen anywhere else in the world, is the use of money and wealth as a determination of whether those are going to succeed, whether you're going to show up to court, and whether you're going to be safe for the community. In actuality, that's not how this comes about at all. And it's one of the reasons why only the United States and Philippines still have a money bail system at all.
Well, the statute, and I couldn't find it this morning when I was trying to prepare for our interview, Michael Gilliland. The statute is very clear that the magistrate, who is the first member of the judiciary that a defendant or an accused person meets, that is ideally before booking, he is supposed to determine whether that person can be let go without a bail bond. And the questions that he has to ask, there are quite a few questions. It's maybe about 9 or 10, but they are, as I would suggest, a kind of a local economy barometer of that person. Is that person connected to local economy? Is that person employed here? Does he have a business here? Does he have long roots at the same address? Does he have family, brothers, sisters, parents, uncles, and aunts in the area? Are his children possibly here? Does he have land ownership? Does he have, in other words, a commitment and a tie, a heart tie, and a financial tie to the area in the county? And a man who has those things, you would think would be let go, but I think there's a list that the magistrates have, and they go by what's on the list. The charge determines the bond. Is that rational for the charge that a person faces to control how much he is perceived to be a risk of flight or a risk to return to the hearing? Michael Gilliland.
Wealth isn't a determination of whether or not you're a safety concern of the community or of whether you're going to come back to court. In fact, it has no bearing at all whatsoever. So take the example of a professional car thief versus someone who's hit the ropes and makes a bad decision, steals a car. Two people charged with the same crime. One professional car thief has the money in order to bail himself out, while the other one doesn't. Now, who's a greater danger to the community, and who has the ability to get out of jail and who doesn't?
Well, is that the rationale of the bail bond system? I thought it was just to assure the return of the person for the hearing, the initial hearing or the trial. Is that not the only reason?
Since the late 80s, that's changed. And in the Supreme Court rulings have allowed for determination of safety to the community to be included. And since that time, you've seen an explosion in bails set and the amount of bail that's set, and consequently, the number of people that are incarcerated pre-trial.
Well, the last time I checked with Matt Lee from the Sheriff's Department, Michael Gilliland of Chattanooga Organized for Action, he said that 66% of the about 500 people down in the hellhole downtown are pretrial, and that means that they're in some way unable to make their bail. They have not the resources or don't have the money to pay the bondsman fee, the 10%, or to pay a house, put over a house or property to guarantee their appearance. So that's again, these are pretrial people. They haven't had trial. They've not been determined legally to have done a crime and or guilty. That hasn't happened.
It's not the story of the justice system that you get in 8th grade civics. It's not this idea of innocent until proven guilty, although ostensibly that's what we talk about. But for a lot of poor people and working class people around the country and here in Hamilton County, you might be innocent until proven guilty, but you're jailed until proven innocent. And that creates major pressures and difficulties for you, much more likely to plead to charges you didn't do.
Well, let's give us an example, Michael Gilliland, of someone, maybe a composite defendant or a composite accused person. How did he get there? What are his problems if he now is in the county jail and can't find $150 to pay the fee for the bondsman, which of course he won't get back? What happens to him? What's the situation?
The average stay for a person that can't make bail, make bond, is at least it's an average of 10 days. And that's $89 every night that the public is spending in order to keep that person in prison. And every night that goes through what is the outstanding human rights crisis that is the county jail system, it makes a person much more likely and feel the need in order to plead out the charges.
Well, what you're saying is that people will plead guilty to something they know they didn't do.
Absolutely, and it's because of the conditions within the jail system. The jail system is so overcrowded here in Hamilton County. On any given night, you've got about 150 people over capacity in the jail system based on what it was built for. They're sticking people in shower stalls because they don't have places to put them. I don't know if you remember the story from last year in Bradley County, where one night a call went out to all officers saying that they couldn't bring in people who were arrested into the jail because of fear that there wouldn't be a place for them. Now, this is a remarkable situation that we have, and it leads to all sorts of abuses, including major pressures for people to plead guilty or plead to charges they didn't commit.
When we say this, Michael Gilliland, the listener's thinking, "Wow, we need to have more jails." Well, I think the answer that my listener would want to consider first is, well, we need to reduce enforcement. So we have really an enforcement feeder mechanism of petty crimes, paper crimes, traffic offenses against people who are not really involved in transportation. We have innumerable offenses that are not intentional crimes. They're very small offenses. They're misdemeanors, and so police they're the mechanism to feed these cells. And now you're saying, well, they're overcrowded.
decriminalization for nonviolent offenses is definitely one aspect of reform for this broken system. But I would say that pretrial services, a better form of pretrial services rather than being left in prison, can prove more remarkable, more effective, more efficient, and more just. Washington, D.C. is a perfect example who replaced money bail with pretrial services. They have 85% of people are immediately released upon coming before a magistrate. And they have pretrial services that check up to make sure that people come back to bail.
That would be a text message 3 days out, a text message a day and a half out, maybe a phone call if there's not a response, a requested response given. Do you need someone to help you? Can we send someone to either with a car or some other form of assistance? You're suggesting
studies have shown that a simple phone call with support services does more to prove that somebody's going to show up to court than actually an ankle bracelet. So yes, reforming in this way in order to keep people out of jail is going to be the most efficient solution.
I was reading this morning about Cook County. It has a jail capacity at 140%. And 79.8% are pretrial, and of those, 41.6% are misdemeanors. Think for a second, Michael Gilliland, about the word misdemeanor. We think, well, we've got the felons, the really bad people, right, accused, and then the misdemeanor. The word demeanor means your look, your appearance, the way whether you're smiling, you have a smiling demeanor, you have a scowling demeanor. If you stub your toe, you have a grimacing demeanor. Well, a misdemeanor is simply having a bad or a misfire or misstep on your demeanor. And a misdemeanor, we should understand, is a minor offense. It's not a crime. It's not a crime against God. It's not violating his law. These are not evils in themselves called male in se. They're male prohibitas. They're simply wrongs by prohibition. There are wrongs that are agreed to by society and by legislatures or ordinance writers. And no one is really injured, and there is no real disorder created by a misdemeanor. And yet these are the kinds of people that fill the jail.
These statistics bear out across the country as well. 2/3 of people that are in jail right now and in jail at any given time have not been convicted of any crime. And for the vast majority of these are nonviolent offenses for which jail, for some reason, has become the main way in which we deal with misdemeanor offenses.
We'll get back to my question about the composite defendant. Okay, here he is. He's in jail. You say 10 days is the length of time?
Average.
Okay, well, what happens in that 10 days? Tell my listener the kinds of things that happen to ordinary people, maybe on the lower level of the economy than he might be.
The situation within the jail of being kept with largely a large group of unknown people who are having to share resources and services. If heaven forbid you have any sort of medical issue or need access to drugs, that becomes another problem. And any sort of access to both material, everything from a toothbrush to a blanket, to the possible danger or threat that comes from a large group of frustrated people being in the room together.
What about on the home side or the home site?
You all of a sudden lose a chance to show up to work. A large number of people, especially in working class jobs, don't have the grace period that other professionals might have being arrested. So not showing up for 1 to 2 days, 3 days in jail can ruin lives. It can ruin your life. It can ruin the lives of your family who's trying to adjust and cope. It can also lead to loss of custody of children. Heaven forbid that you have your car towed and are having to pay fees every night on top while you're in jail.
Your car impounded.
That's right.
Well, here, think of, I looked at some of the faces this morning at the arrested, the bookings report from that John Wilson has at Chattanooga.com. It's also, you can see that at the Chattanooga Times Free Press, Your Right to Know part of the website. And a woman there, she's charged with a traffic offense, let's say, or driving on revoked. Tail light is out, and there she is. She's been booked, and think she's late on the rent, right? She's already gotten a mean email from her landlord, the company that runs her apartment complex. She's 1 month behind, and she's gotten a deadline that business is going to start eviction proceedings tomorrow. And tonight, here she is. She's in the jail. and unable to come up with $125.
It's not making people less likely to be in this position in the future. In fact, going to jail for whatever amount of time, whether you're found guilty or not, at the end of it, that's not making better people. It's not making people who are making better choices. It's not making people who are in a safe and stable place in order to be community contributors.
Well, Michael Gilliland of Chattanooga Organized for Actions, does bail effectively assure the return of the accused to the hearing or the trial? Does it do that? Yes or no?
No, not as well as other proven methods of pretrial services. And I think that this is one of the main causes for the huge influx of activism and activity around the country around coming up, doing away with the money bail system at all. Atlanta, just in February, did away with money bail for a majority of offenses in the city court. New Orleans has done the same, taking the example of Washington, D.C. And then, even when municipalities or the county court systems are slow in enacting change, you have local communities who are establishing their own bail funds in order to pull together resources to keep people out of jail.
In Nashville, there's a woman named Gilliland Lane, the Nashville Bail Reform Project, and she's gotten already 150 people, according to the Tennessean, out who would be languishing in a cell, and she's using money that's effectively recycled. So how would a bail reform program work where my listener, a man of means, perhaps, would be willing to put that money up and have it recycled to bring people out under the current system until there is reform in Hamilton County? How would that work?
Well, bail funds are a large Band-Aid, and they definitely don't replace doing away with the money bail system in total, but they are remarkably effective at helping the people who they need, as well as creating a revolving account where once people show up to court, that money can then be used on other nonviolent offenders to be able to bring them out of the jail system. There are over 19 states that have communities that are establishing or have established bail funds around the country. Some of them are remarkably successful, and it helps to highlight the injustice and the difficulty of a very inefficient system.
And that could be you, my listener, the man of means. You've just been selling off some of your equities. You know that there's a major crash ahead, and in fact, you're having to open an account in new banks to maintain your FDIC coverage of your deposits. Now, I think what you could be doing for the benefit of people in Chattanooga, even with a kind of a Christian analysis here, because what you're doing, if you put that money up, you are helping people who are poor, who are wanting encouragement, and then you're pointing out, Michael, that it's recycled. And why is it recycled? How come money is not lost generally in a revolving bail fund? What does revolving mean? Why is there not a cost to that capital base?
When you put up your own money for bail, when you show back up to court, or whether or not you show back up to court, once that has been done and court is done, you've been shown to have shown up one way or another, you get that money back. If you go to a bail bondsman, the fee, typically a 10% fee on the total bail, is charged. Whether or not you're not proven guilty or whatnot, you don't get that money back. So basically stepping in and providing the resources for people to post their own bail, or for the resources to come, they come back. They get recycled from the court and get brought back into the fund to be used for the next person.
I looked at the active bonds in Hamilton County, Michael Gilliland, and let me ask you, how many pages of bonds issued and put up by these companies would you suppose there are? Just throw a number out. How many pages?
For a
Hamilton County
monthly?
No, right now. How many bonds are extant now?
There are pages.
There are 119 pages. Now, some of those pages don't have a lot of type on them, but altogether, each one, there are innumerable, and I did not have the time to count them, innumerable people involved in the business of having that fee. And I've not done the reading on this, or I've not really asked the questions, Michael Gilliland, but I have a suspicion that this industry is a fractional reserve industry, that the money that you, my listener, would have to put up if you wrote the check yourself, the bondsman doesn't have to write a check for $10,000. He just puts his name out there as the guarantor, and because he's in that business, it's assumed that he will make good. He will track you down if you don't show up, and if you escape to Bermuda he'll be good for the 10,000. Though he didn't actually write the bond, so the business people don't have to put the money up for the county. The county secures them by having a relationship, and I guess an equitable legal relationship with these companies, and it does not require the money to be put up. In fact, in the reserve. David Tiller for talking with Michael Gilliland. We'll be back in just a minute. The argument I make is near is better than far, small and big, and simple than complex. And down the footnotes, a 5-point type in the Helvetica font, the neutral font, sans serif, sans blade, right? No blades, no coercion and compulsion. We have the details, the footnotes. Personal, better than corporate, and physical than abstract. Brought to you by Nuganomics.com. Nuganomics.com. We'll be right back with Michael Gilliland. Hang on.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Hamilton County Health Department says at least 2 Chattanoogans were infected with E. coli after eating at the River Drifters restaurant on Suck Creek Road. Police believe the E. coli came from the well water. The health department says the restaurant is complying and they're working on getting a new, healthier water source. The location otherwise has a spotless health record. A man was blasted in the thigh with a shotgun in Cook Park, Athens. Police say it happened just after 8 p.m. Sunday. They found Willie Lusain Jr. with his leg shredded with buckshot. Police discovered he had gotten into an argument with a 17-year-old who left and came back packing heat. Police say they know who the 17-year-old is. And a 69-year-old from Mowbray Mountain, Roger Kelly, was shot to death on Hot Water Road in Saudi Daisy. Police say it happened just after 5 p.m. on Sunday. Police say he was already dead when they got to the scene. All that remains is to find out who did it. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7, Action Sports Now. According to a report on ESPN.com, former Ohio State assistant football coach Zach Smith says he did not inform his old boss Urban Meyer that he was arrested and charged with drunken driving in 2013. Smith was arrested and charged with speeding and operating a vehicle while intoxicated in February of 2013, 1 year after he joined the Buckeye staff. He later pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and had his license suspended for 6 months. Taylor Hasty has been named the new athletic director for Silverdale Baptist Academy High School. According to a press release from the school, Hasty brings with him success as both a high school and collegiate athlete and experience of running a collegiate athletic department. He replaces Mr. C.R. Bubba Simmons, Silverdale's previous high school athletic director, who's taken another position within the academy in the admissions department, as continued growth has provided more opportunities both for him and Silverdale. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7, Action Sports Now.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nooga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio. 92.7.
I got my business up and running and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. signalvoicetn.com.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Hey, Karen, you need me for that 1 o'clock?
Yes, Cheese, please. Karen, did you get the quarterlies done? Yep, they're filed in the cabinet.
Karen, can you describe the initiatives to the new hire? Thanks.
Oh, sure. Full-bodied, some floral notes, maybe a hint of dark chocolate.
Am I in the right department?
Got wine on the mind? Come unwind at Virgola. Italian wine, oysters, caviar, cheeses, and more. Perfect after work or a romantic date night. Virgola Italian Wine Bar, 608 Georgia Avenue.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt.